All right, for our third and final segment, we're going to have a short conversation with James from Hive Comics. You all know James and Jonathan are the kings of exclusive variants, but there's more to their collecting than just that. I spent time digging through the long boxes with these gentlemen, and they're a couple of fantastic guys, and it's really interesting to me that a young collector and somebody with his finger directly on the pulse of what's happening in the comic industry collects the way that he does. So I wanted to just share with you a short conversation I had with James and about some of the books that he's brought to me to be pressed, and his own personal, how he collects for his personal collection. So it's a real interesting conversation. I hope you enjoy. You and John are the king of variant covers. Everything you guys do is just spot on, spectacular. You get the youngest artists, you do short runs to make them more valuable, extremely affordable on your website, hivecomics.com. But you're a big collector too. And I think it's really interesting. I actually spent the day with James last Saturday in a comic shop, and he was going through boxes looking for books to flip like speculators do. But your personal collection is way different than what you buy to flip.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell them about the stack of the Phantoms that you brought me?
So a lot of people don't know, but in the 1940s, they did Spirit Weekly was one of the inserts that they used to do in mostly East Coast like newspapers. So these were the early way of distributing comic books. Was in these newspapers just in the middle. It was kind of like a section you could hand off to your kids, you know, to let them enjoy the newspaper, as it were. But a lot of those, I mean, they were printed on newspaper stock. They're really hard to come by in good condition. A lot of times they get dark brown just from weathering. The paper's thin, they chip. They're in horrible shape. So finding them in good shape it's a nightmare. And it's one of the harder chases in comics right now, because it's not that they're expensive. It's that they're just impossible to find. They're just not out there. I wouldn't be surprised if there's complete issues that are just lost to time. So I've gave 9 copies to you to press. So I had to trade the guy for the last bunch he had, but we came up with a pretty solid trade, and so I've got those on their way.
Well, one thing that really impressed me when I started working these, typically with something that old, I have to rehydrate, and there's a lot that goes into that process. But they were like day one. I mean, they were in perfect shape. They had very slight folds and all that pressed out. I think you've got some seriously high grade.
It's like I told you, we're going to break the census on these ones. I think the highest graded I've been able to see generally sit around 7.75. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I asked the guy too, because I saw him, especially seeing him in person. Seeing photos, they looked fantastic. Seeing him in person and realizing they looked just as good, I of course had to ask him, where he got them from and the story behind that. But I guess he picked up a collection from a grandkid of somebody who'd been collecting since the 40s. But he had managed to put together an entire 4 full Spirit sets, basically from the beginning to the end. And I just got lucky that he had a bunch of these in there, and it's been parting them out. Not too many have gone out, though. He said he's putting in together some full collections right now. I get first dibs, luckily. Up to this point, I have a pretty decent size chunk of a collection.
So these are for the personal collection, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. These are PC. These will never go anywhere. Right. I'm trying to. There's some ghosts out there, like the very first issue. That's one I'm digging. That's a big goal of mine. I don't know that I'm shooting for a complete collection of them, but I would like it to be as complete as possible. Just because I don't, like I said, there's probably issues of that series that are just lost. They just don't exist anymore. So I'm not going to kill myself trying to find them, but I have been looking for 2.5 years to find as many as I have, which isn't very many.
And definitely the coolest one you have, Eisner Drawing Eisner.
Yeah, that one's my favorite. If it does give a 9.8, I'm driving to your house and giving you a big fat kiss. So
you can go to hive-comics.com. You got ratio variants for all their books. You've got their exclusive variants. You can get this kind of stuff. James and Jonathan both buy books, flip them, but it's more about the collectability. That they're collectors. They know comics. They read comics. They can talk comics. Go check them out and see what they have on their site, and you might find something that you like. Thanks, James.
Thanks, Eric.